Welcome to Scandal Water,
where we cover the stories that have captivated the entertainment world.
I'm Candy, a longtime educator and community theater actress.
And I'm Ashley, a writer and co-founder of a local theater group.
We're two friends who share a love of entertainment.
From true crime docuseries to blockbuster movies to classic TV to Broadway shows and everything in between.
Each week, I share a compelling story related to pop culture.
And I chime in using my trivia junkie brain.
We stick to the facts until it's time to settle into our armchairs at the end.
Then we're simply two women with a strong cup of tea and even stronger opinions.
We're Scandal Water.
And if this sounds like your cup of tea,
follow the show on your favorite podcast app or the Scandal Water Podcast YouTube channel.
Oh, it's that time of day. Tune in and hear what the ladies say. It's time to bend your ear when the silver screen appears. Stories about the stage and screen and everything in between. So come on and join the fun. The curtain opens in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, Ashley.
hello, Candy.
We're back for our final Oh Canada
I'm so
episode.
excited.
You know, this has been fun.
It has been.
I was thinking as I was driving in, not only has it been nice because you and I have both admitted we don't know as much about Canadian entertainers as we would like, so this has been a good learning opportunity, but also I was thinking we've been so well-rounded.
Mm-hmm.
Our first episode on Catherine O'Hara, of course, a brilliant comedic actress. We were hitting hard on films and TV.
Yes.
And then we came back with a literary slant
I
with
loved
Anne
that
of
one.
Green Gables and the author Lucy Maud Montgomery. And now,
We're going just a wild turn to the left, man.
absolutely, we're hitting on music.
Yes.
Music. I love it. To kick this off, I found a 2023 Rolling Stone article where they listed, of course, this is always opinions, right? But they listed the 50 greatest Canadian artists of all time. We're talking music.
Yeah.
I wrote down the top 10.
Okay.
Would you like to hear them?
I would absolutely like to hear them.
Okay. Number 10, Celine Dion.
Oh, yeah. Number 10?
Yes.
She only made it to number 10.
Well, I mean, we've got some great Canadian
Okay.
performers. Yeah.
Okay. Let me hear the rest.
Number 9, Alanis Morissette.
Oh.
Yeah. Number 8, The Weeknd.
Okay.
Number 7, Shania Twain.
Shania.
Number 6, The Band. I don't know The Band. I'm not. Okay. Number 5, Drake. Number 4, Leonard Cohen.
Okay.
Number 3, Rush. And Kirk was very offended that Rush did not rate higher.
Oh.
You know, they do that song, Tom Sawyer.
Yes.
Okay. He loves that song. Number 2, Neil Young.
Oh.
Number 1, Joni Mitchell.
Joni Mitchell. I still feel like Celine should have scored higher.
I was surprised myself.
Yeah,
I'm not going to lie.
I don't put her in top 3. I'm just saying it now. Celine, come on.
But
My
I-
heart will go on Celine.
But I do wonder, you know, we're coming at this from an American perspective. If this is a broader perspective, then it rates differently, right? But number 7, you heard it, Shania Twain. Shania. She is going to be the focus of this episode. Of course, she's a huge star globally, not just in her home country. She has sold more than 100 million albums. Known as the Queen of Country Pop, she is the best-selling female artist in country music history, a title that she has held on to for something like 25 years.
Amazing.
And I didn't really realize this. I found out when I started researching. She's had a resurgence of popularity in recent years, thanks to some new music, some new tours, and some recognition from some very popular younger artists, which we will circle back to later. So lots of reasons why we should be talking about Shania Twain.
Yes.
Now, her career was at its peak between the years of 1995 to 2002, which is, I think, where a lot of my connections come in. So what you tell us.
Same thing. That's what I remember. The CD, what's the one that had all of the, man, I feel like a woman.
Come on over.
Come on over. Yeah, that's the one I remember.
I loved that. I love that. What are some of the songs or some of the little memories that come to mind?
So you're Brad Pitt. I remember that line.
Yes. And of
that
course,
don't impress me much.
That don't impress me much. Come on, girls.
Yep.
That was a biggie.
The boy, she had some great riffs. And it was great for line dancing.
Oh, yes, absolutely. It was a big thing. It was a big thing. And I remember it was like a huge girl power vibe that surrounded her.
Yes.
Still the one. The song's still the one.
That song was so pretty.
Kirk and I love that, you know? I mean, that's one that we would play years later and be like, this is such a sweet song.
And I remember her story being like hard scrabble life, which made you endeared to her even more. You wanted her to succeed.
Yes.
Considering what she had been through. And then what she went through very publicly, you wanted it even more for her.
And we're going to dig into that. Yes, absolutely. And I mean, it doesn't hurt that she was drop dead gorgeous, too. I mean, she seemed to have everything going for her. But then, as you said, we're going to come back to some of those challenges that she was actually facing behind the scenes that we didn't always know about. So I did discover through this research that there was so much more to her and to her story than I ever suspected. This is going to be a fun episode. Let's dig in. I will tell you, there's a documentary out there, Not Just a Girl. I did everything I could to find it, was not able to find it. However, Shania is wonderful about giving interviews.
Yes, I found one for you. One of her
yes,
very early ones.
You did. And I ended up hearing her speak so many different times to so many different people on, different talk shows or in interviews, and also, of course, written interviews. So I feel like I know her now. And I like her.
Besties.
I
Good.
like her.
Good. It's good when you know somebody and you're like, oh, good. You're actually a good person.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Shania was born Eileen Regina Edwards.
Oh.
Did you know that was her real name?
No, I did not.
Yeah. She was born on August 28th of 1965 in Windsor, Ontario. There's our Canada connection again, of course. By the way, her family does still call her by her given name.
Really?
Yeah. So she's Eileen, or they would call her Ellie when she was young.
Oh, that's a sweet
Yeah.
name.
But we are going to call her Shania, of course. Shania's parents were Sharon and Clarence Edwards, but they divorced when Shania was only 2 years old, at which point Mom, Sharon, moved Shania along with her older sister Jill and younger sister Carrie Ann to Timmins, Ontario. And at that point, Shania's biological father was pretty much no longer part of her childhood. I don't know if she ever saw him off and on, but he pretty much was not a factor in her upbringing. However, Sharon soon met and married a man named Jerry Twain, who was from the Ojibwe tribe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He adopted the girls when Shania was only 4. And so he was her
she has
dad.
that last name.
He was her dad. The couple had a child together, so they added that son, Mark, to the Twain family. And then the last child to enter the family was Jerry's nephew, Daryl, who the couple adopted after Daryl's mother died. So they had a nice
family.
big family, yes. Childhood was difficult, though, for Shania and her siblings. An ABC News article said that she kept a lot of information about her childhood private prior to 2011, but a lot of it came out with her memoir entitled From This Moment On, and I've heard her since speak about it in numerous interviews. But again, she has been very open about the trauma that she endured growing up. Now, one of those challenges that her family faced was poverty. Shania has said there were times when her parents couldn't pay the rent or put food on the table, and she recalled going to school hungry, and she commented, quote, "It's very hard to concentrate when your stomach's rumbling." But then she also said it would feel humiliating to her to ask one of her classmates, can I have that sandwich that you're not eating?
Yeah.
So she just
Stay
got
hungry.
really good at hiding it.
Yeah.
And she just stayed hungry. As a way to bring in extra money to support the family, Sharon would take Shania to bars to perform, starting when Shania was around 8 years old.
So she had a voice from early on.
Yes, and actually here in a minute, we're going to hear a quote where she talks about singing even younger than that, but I think it was at 8 that she started going to the bars.
Okay.
In an interview with Kelly Clarkson, in fact, Shania said that she was speaking about the fact that she dealt with stage fright for a long time, but she said it likely went back to this experience of performing in bars when she was so young, because she said it was really, really intimidating. Here she is, this really young girl, and the people there would sometimes be drunk or rowdy. Yes. And so she would get through it by putting on this face. She was the confident performer. She acted like she had it all together. And so that's what she continued to do even after her career took off. And she did gain a lot of confidence. She said at some point she kind of settled into herself, and she really kind of took, I think, control of her feelings of insecurity. But to dig into this experience a little more deeply, Shania said in her 2022 interview with the Sunday Times, which was a fantastic interview that revealed a lot of information. So I'm probably going to refer to that particular source on a number of times.
Okay.
But she said bars couldn't legally let her in until they stopped serving alcohol, which was at midnight.
Oh, gosh.
So at that point, the clientele who weren't ready to go home yet would often stock up on, they'd get 2 or 3 drinks, to have on hand, and they would listen while Shania took the stage. And it said in that article, quote, belting out country or rock hits through the waves of cigarette smoke. Her mom would get her out of bed to do it.
So how is are they paying her to do this? That's how they're making money then?
So I never saw anything specific. There would just be like these vague references to the fact that it might only pay $20 a night. But I got the feeling Shania said she didn't get paid. So I think it was mom would take that home and it would contribute to the family's money.
I'm
Absolutely.
not thinking they're stealing it from her. I'm just wondering, were you actually making money, or was this sort of a let's try to further your career so you can make money?
And yes, absolutely. I was going to get to that point in just a second. It wasn't just about the money. Mom believed in Shania, except again, she didn't call her that. But she thought she had the talent. She really wanted her to make it, and it also was an opportunity for her to perform, to get her name out there, to get exposure. Mom did believe in her.
Okay.
Absolutely. Now, when Shania was 11, she was given a special permit that allowed her to take the stage earlier in the night, so that helped a little bit with her sleep.
Yeah.
And at 14, though, she got a job at McDonald's, which she called her saving grace, because not only did she earn some money to put in her own pocket, it sounded as though she got to keep all or most of the money that she made in that job. But she said she had access to food.
Oh,
yeah.
honey.
Yeah. But that didn't put an end to her performances. It was just something else she added to her plate. So through the rest of high school, she spent many days working at McDonald's after school and then going to sing in a
When is she
bar
doing
that
schoolwork?
night. Oh, she said she was half asleep through most of high school.
Oh, poor baby.
Yeah. Challenging, right? It sounds very challenging to have grown up that way, but it actually, sadly, is worse than that.
I know.
Yeah, you know what's coming.
Yes.
So again, I want to be fair to her mom. Shania appreciated that her mom encouraged her talent, that her mom encouraged her love of music. But I got the impression Sharon was also a bit of a stage mom. And she did rely on Shania to help out quite a bit when she was at home. Shania told Hoda Kotb on her podcast in 2023 that, quote, my mother was depressed a lot of our lives. She didn't get out of bed for days many times. And so Shania would be expected to pick up some of that slack. And then even worse than that, well, probably one of the reasons why Sharon was depressed was that Shania's adoptive father, Jerry, was abusive. And yeah.
Oh, I did not remember that part.
Oh, I thought that's what you were referring to. Yeah. Shania said it was confusing because Jerry would work hard. She called him her dad. He taught her to be a good person, she said. There were times when, she seemed to love him. She seemed to respect him. But on the other hand, she said she witnessed him physically abuse her mom many times. And we'll get to her own abuse in a second, but we're going to linger here for a second with her mom's abuse. But Shania said you never knew what you were going to get. You never knew what to expect. And that was part of it.
The volatility.
Just always being on edge. And when is the violence going to come out? But in an interview with a reporter from Nightline in 2011, Shania described one terrible incident that she witnessed. Here is a quote from an ABC article talking about that Nightline interview. Quote, she recalled his abusing her and her mother consistently throughout her childhood, including one terrifying incident in which she watched Jerry plunge Sharon's head into the toilet. I thought he'd killed her, Twain said. I really thought she was drowned or dead, or that he had just smashed her head in and she was never going to wake up. She looked dead. She was unconscious. She was limp, hanging from his, he had her hair in his hands. So I'd gone through the shock and the experience of really believing my mother had died at that moment, she continued. Also through the humiliation of how I thought she'd been killed by drowning in a toilet seat. It was very, very obviously very hard to take. And again, Jerry was abusive to Shania too, verbally, physically, and also sexually, she said.
Gosh.
Yeah, which she spoke about in the Sunday Times interview. Now, she said her situation taught her to fight back when she had to, but also it taught her to try to go unnoticed as much as she could. She said she would do everything she could to try to hide her figure, especially when she was a teen and a young adult. She struggled with body image for a long time, but again, at some point, she said later in her career, she kind of seemed to come to terms with that, but it was a huge thing for her. What kept Shania going through all of this was her music. Through it all, she still loved singing, playing her guitar, and songwriting. And her mother's unfaltering belief that Shania was going to make it as a musician meant a lot to her, too. Here is a clip from a 1993 interview where Shania speaks briefly about her early start with music.
I know that you were about 3 years old when your mom started to sit you up on stools in a cafe and sing for people. Is that one of your earliest memories of singing?
Yes.
Then?
I mean, singing where I was noticed. But I remember always playing with my voice, experimenting with sounds. I mean, I was experimenting with resonance in my voice. I mean, ever since I can remember. I would spend hours just doing that. I mean, it's like walking or talking. For me, it's just always been a very natural thing.
So again, music was huge to her.
Yeah, sounds like it was her escape.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Shania was expanding her horizons a bit as a performer during all of this time when she was younger. Wikipedia says that when she was only 13, Shania was invited to perform on the CBC's Tommy Hunter show. Now, this is fun. I actually found a clip of that.
Aww.
And here she comes out looking so young, and it was a YouTube clip. They actually identified her as being only 11. I saw somewhere else she was 14, 13. I'm not sure. But
very young.
But she was young. And they introduced her as Ellie Twain. And she took that stage. You could see it. I could see it. She was like, okay.
Here we go.
Yes, the confidence was there. She was a performer.
Wow.
Yeah. And you could tell she had talent. Yeah. Now, while attending Timmins High and vocational school, Shania was the singer for a local band called Longshot, which covered top 40 music. And then after she graduated from high school, she moved out on her own and continued to work on trying to launch her music career while also working some other jobs to try to make ends meet. In fact, around the time she was 22, which was in 1987, Shania was still pursuing her dreams with music. She never let that go. And she even, for a while, had been working with a manager, trying to get her career launched. But she was also attending a computer programming school as a fallback, according to a People magazine article. Right. And then one day, she received a phone call from her sister sharing tragic news. Her mother and father, Sharon and Jerry Twain, had been killed in a car accident.
That's what I remembered.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Shania said it was just devastating.
Yeah.
It was so tragic. She said it was just the shock, the grief.
Yeah.
But it also left her with a huge dilemma. The oldest Twain sister, Jill, was now married, out on her own, raising 2 children of her own. She was kind of away from the family. Yeah, she had her own life. And I never was able to find out the exact age difference between Shania and her younger sister, Carrie Ann. But Carrie Ann was still living in her parents' home when they were killed, while Shania was out on her own. And in that home was also the 2 younger brothers, Daryl and Mark, who were only 13 and 14 at this time. Shania's younger brother, Mark, by the way, had actually been in the car with his parents when that fatal accident occurred. Fortunately, he had suffered only minor injuries. But here is another clip from that same 1993 interview, which, by the way, was with a host named Denny Petty. It's the one you sent me.
Oh, yes.
Where Shania shares what happened after the loss of her parents.
At age 22, tragedy struck your family. You lost your mom and your dad in a car accident, and you take over a head of a household. And you need a job, and you decide, okay, I'm gonna gotta support these kids, so I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna sing my way, continue with this voice, and make a living.
And I always did sing, but I never was forced to actually make money.
Serious now.
I was forced to make money with it. I always just did it. And now it came the time where I really had to, because I had to buy a home. And we could have stayed in my parents' home in Timmins, but where was I going to sing in Timmins regularly enough to earn the money to really keep things going? And then what would have happened to my career? It was just a really tough situation, and an opportunity came up at Deerhurst in Huntsville, at the Deerhurst Inn, and the money was really good, and it was stationary. I wasn't on the road. So I basically convinced the kids to move with me to Huntsville, and they did, and they're still there.
First, I think I should just make this clear. Despite all the abuse that Jerry had inflicted, Shania said it was really hard to lose him, and of course her mom both. She told Hoda Kotb again in that 2023 interview, "I lost a very important foundation. As rickety as it was still a foundation. My whole life history was there with them, and many of the associations fell along the way after my parents died. It was so true that so much of my life was stemming from them being in my life, the good and the bad."
Yeah.
I
22 years old and your world has just completely changed.
And basically, she's forced to become a parent.
Yes.
Because she said it was clear what she had to do. She said, quote, "We all agreed they shouldn't be separated, but no relatives were able to take them in. So the only way to keep them together was for us to stay together."
Wow.
So as you heard in the clip, Shania was able to pay the mortgage on a small house and support her younger siblings, who she will still to this day sometimes refer to as the kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
By singing at the Deerhurst Resort in Huntsville, Ontario. And again, I'm not sure how much Carrie Ann was helping to support. Of course, she's close to Shania's age, but I think it was still a situation of Shania's in charge and she's kind of the main parent, but I think Carrie Ann is supporting this. Yes. And obviously, thank goodness, it was successful. I mean, she was able to get those kids on their path. Okay. But something positive happened. Shania got her first recording contract in 1992, which the Sunday Times interview said occurred after she sent a demo to numerous record labels, one of which was Mercury Nashville Records, and they decided to sign her.
Good for you all. Very smart business move.
You think?
I'm here in the future telling you.
In that same 1993 interview, which was actually given to promote that debut album, Shania shared that she started with over 100 songs and then over the course of months kept listening to tapes and considering all the different options until she had finally whittled it down to the 10 that ultimately made it onto her album.
Wow.
Yeah.
She had 90 other songs.
Isn't that crazy to think about that?
That's a lot of songs.
It was titled Shania Twain, and it featured the single What Made You Say That? And by the way, I couldn't find a definitive date, but most sources seem to agree that it was when Shania was producing this first album that she actually decided to use Shania as her stage name instead of continuing with Eileen.
Okay.
Now, a 2025 article published on the Country 103.7 website said this about the reception to her music. Quote, "Her self-titled debut album, released in 1993, failed to make an impact, peaking at number 67 on the U.S. Country Albums chart. Though critics noted her vocal ability, she wasn't yet writing her own songs, and Mercury Records considered dropping her. Everything changed when legendary producer Robert John, nicknamed Mutt Lange, known for his work with rock juggernauts such as AC/DC and Def Leppard, heard Twain and saw the potential for something genre-defying."
Did he?
I see the face.
He had dollar signs in his eyes.
A quick clarification, by the way, that quote said that she wasn't yet writing her own songs. She did actually co-write just one song on that first album, but it sounded to me as though the people in charge, the producers in charge, were guiding her to have her do covers of other people's works as opposed to using her own songs.
That makes sense.
But again, as you heard in the quote, Shania's first album, not very successful, but did lead to this event that would prove to be critical in launching her career. Meeting that hit producer, Mutt Lange, who had produced records for bands like AC/DC, Def Leppard, and the Cars, that did actually change the course of her career and her life. Let's be real. So the two met in the summer of 1993, and they were married before the year ended on December 28th. So wait,
say that again? They met when?
Summer of 1993.
And married when?
December 28th.
Girl.
He was 17 years older.
Meet and married within 6 months. That's your first red flag.
Yeah, that's fast. You know what? He was accomplished and very good at his job, and I can see where
she needed somebody to protect her and help her and guide her. I can see it.
Very appealing.
Yeah.
And he was probably very charming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But his name is Mutt. Don't forget that.
Supposedly because of his shaggy hair.
Whatever.
So an ABC article said he was the first to recognize that Shania was not only a great singer, but she also had a distinctive voice as a songwriter. He was also a very talented songwriter who quickly became Shania's primary songwriting partner as well as her producer. And with his guidance, Shania released her second album in 1995. It was called The Woman in Me, and it changed her life.
Yeah, it did.
The album gave her first #1 single, Any Man of Mine. Do you remember?
Any man of mine better be proud of me.
There you go.
Something, he still better love me. I can be late for a date, that's fine, but he better be on time.
Nice.
Boom. Oh, yeah.
And that album also became her first crossover onto the pop charts, earned her a Grammy, and turned her into a country music star.
Superstar. Man, I remember being, 93, 94? I was like 13, 14, singing that like I had every... Oh, yeah. Like I had all that kind of confidence at 13.
I am not ashamed to say that doing this, I went down such a rabbit trail. I was playing one song after another, and the vibes. It took me right back to, because I did have one of her CDs in my car, and I think it was actually a compilation of her greatest hits. But I mean, Up. There's so many songs, Up, Up, Up.
Oh.
I mean, it was one after another. I was like, oh, that one. Oh,
And that one. And that one.
Yeah, she had so many hits. One being, one of the other hit songs on that album is right here in my notes, was Whose Bed Have Your Boots Been Under?
Whose bed have your boots been under? Well, that was terrible, but
I love it. I think I've already referenced this. An article written about that song on the Country 103.7 website says this, quote, Whose Bed Have Your Boots Been Under did more than just initiate a new chapter of Shania Twain's life. It rewrote the country music playbook.
Really?
Cheeky lyrics, a catchy melody, and slick production collectively introduced the world to Twain's brand of pop-infused country music.
Okay.
It signaled the arrival of a boundary-breaking artist who would soon become the best-selling woman in country music history.
Crazy.
I know. 2 years later, she somehow managed to top that. Come On Over was released in 1997, containing hits like Man, I Feel Like a Woman.
I feel like a woman. Yeah.
You're Still the One, and From This Moment On.
Oh, both of those were on that. Man, what a great album.
It really was. In terms of the significance of that album, to mark the 25th anniversary of Come On Over, in 2022, People magazine released an article that offered this quote from Shania herself. 20 years ago, I released Come On Over, and because of your support, that album went on to become the biggest selling studio album by a female artist of all time, the best-selling country music album ever, and the biggest selling album by a Canadian country artist.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That is crazy.
End quote.
Crazy, crazy.
Yeah. The album was also nominated for Album of the Year and Best Country Album. Several sources also talked about the significance of its crossover appeal. Although, now to be fair, there was some criticism. Some people criticized.
I could see that.
Yep, they said this is not
not
holding
country.
true to country. Yes, exactly. But there was no denying the popularity of Shania's music. She was absolutely a global sensation. She was also a powerful model of a strong woman with a lot of her songs sounding like anthems to girl power.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. And on that high note,
Let's leave on a high note.
yeah, why don't we take a quick break? Because unfortunately, when we return, not everything we discuss is going to be quite that uplifting.
Boo. We love our sponsors. They help make our podcast possible, but we also know that some of you prefer to enjoy your tea without any interruptions. Well, if that's the case, you'll be excited to learn that you can now listen to Scandal Water free of sponsor ads on Apple Podcasts for only $4.99 a month or $49.99 a year. The best part? By subscribing, you'll also receive access to our exclusive bonus content. To sign up, just go to Apple Podcasts and search for Scandal Water Podcast, and you'll see the link. Thanks for helping us keep the tea brewing. Cheers!
And we're back. Well, as we said before the break, Shania's album, Come On Over, was released in 1997, and before her next album came out, she and Mutt had added to their family. Their son, Asia, spelled EJA, was born in 2001, and her next studio album, Up, was released in 2002. While not quite as huge as her previous album.
Yeah, because I don't remember this one as much.
I love that song.
Do you?
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely. And there were some, in fact, I'm getting ready to tell you a couple of the other songs on there. But it was still incredibly popular, and it produced hits like I'm Gonna Get You Good.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of them, and Up was the other one I wrote down. But according to a CBC article, it also earned Shania her third diamond album in a row in the U.S. The article goes on to note that in Canada, the album was certified diamond just 17 days after its release.
Now, is she living in Nashville at this time as she moved to America?
She was in Nashville, but by the time she's married to Mutt, they spent a lot of their married life living in Switzerland.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. As we were saying, she's on a high. Her star power was so high, in fact, that she was invited to perform alongside No Doubt and Sting at that year's Super Bowl halftime show.
Wow.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it was not long after this that life threw her two huge curveballs, both of which were devastating to her. First of all, it was around 2003 or 2004 when Shania first started noticing problems with her voice.
Oh, no.
Bad problems, yeah. Now, this would end up being a long, ongoing issue for her, but at some point, long into the process, as a matter of fact, she was diagnosed as having dysphonia, a neurological disorder that affected her vocal cords. But she said it took 6 or 7 years before a doctor finally connected what was happening with her voice to nerve damage caused by the Lyme disease that she had contracted back in 2003 from horseback riding.
Oh, Lyme disease is no joke.
It really isn't. She remembered
joke.
she remembered the tick on her, but it took them so long to put this all together.
Ticks are just like the scariest things ever.
I agree with you. Yeah. Now, what she was experiencing with her voice was incredibly challenging. In that same Sunday Times article, it said, quote, she would try to sing, it would falter, lose the note, not reach the right places. She could only sing a high falsetto like Minnie Mouse. She couldn't even raise her voice to call to her beloved dogs on a walk. I lost access to certain emotions, like the passion or expression that you want to put into something. For example, she gave the example of being upset and wanting to yell and only being able to whisper. Yeah, so it got really bad. And of course, it would go up and down, but it made me think of Kimberly.
Me too.
Kimberly Williams, yeah. But in terms of the timeline, in 2004, Shania has a son who's around 3. She's still in the midst of her Up tours, and she is starting to deal with these vocal issues, okay, for which she has no idea at that point what the cause is. And it's around this time that she starts to notice another concern. In that same ABC News article that I mentioned, the one where they were reporting on Shania's interview with the Nightline anchor, Cynthia McFadden, she shared a bit about the breakup of her marriage, which is what we're heading into. Here is an excerpt from that article. Quote, but with her punishing tour and studio schedules, Twain said she eventually began to sense that something was wrong with her marriage around the time of her 2004 Up tour. When I started to get lonely, then I knew that something wasn't right, she said. I'm married to someone I love, and I'm so lonely. I didn't want to live that way. Twain said she began confiding heavily in her close friend, Mary Ann Thibault. They were friends for years, until Twain confronted Thibault and Lang about having an affair. Okay, so let's go into a little more detail here. Side note, by the way, Mary Ann, in all the interviews I saw, it was pronounced Mary Ann, but it's spelled Marie Ann, M-A-R-I-E. But I'm going with the pronunciation I heard from Shania herself. All right. Mary Ann was this woman who was not just a close friend. She actually, I think, got started by acting as a personal assistant and secretary to Shania. And then she also looked after one of their homes. I think it was the home in Switzerland. But over the years, they had become very close. This woman had become a confidant to Shania. Their families would celebrate holidays together or sometimes vacation together. They celebrated each other's birthdays. They were besties.
Yeah.
They were close. Now, Mutt and Mary Ann both publicly denied that they were romantically involved, but Shania shared in a 2011 interview on the Marilyn Dennis show that Mary Ann's husband, Frederick, or Fred, as Shania refers to him, was the one who told her about their alleged affair. She said she didn't believe him at first. In fact,
It would be hard to believe.
oh, absolutely. She 100% discounted it. And she said she went to Mary Ann and was convinced when Mary Ann denied it. She said, Mary Ann got tearful and she was so convincing that Shania actually felt bad about accusing her. But in an interview on the Ellen DeGeneres show, Shania said that Fred told her he had proof, hotel bills and such, although she did not go into what the evidence was in her book or in the interview, either one. She said she wasn't focused on the sordid details. She really wanted to focus more on the fallout and how all this impacted her.
And I think that's good. I don't think you need to share the sort of details, just how it affected you.
Yeah, and something that she brought out was, I'm probably not going to convey this correctly, but remember, it wasn't like this was just like a switch being turned. She felt like things were wrong for a long time. She had been confiding to this friend for a long time about her marriage and her feelings about her husband. And then at some point,
She's the reason.
this woman's husband comes and says,
Hey, guess what?
she's involved with your husband. And so I think Shania's point was, had her friend been a friend to her when she was first confiding in her, could her marriage have survived?
Right.
Like at what point,
I don't know.
if there was an affair, at what point did it develop, et cetera, and so forth. Shania had this quote that I thought I would share. This is about Marianne. Whether she was part of the cause of the breakup or whether it was just me leaning on her because it was already breaking up, I really don't know which came first. What I do know is she took advantage of, the weakness in the relationship between Mutt and I.
Yeah, I see what she's saying. She's saying, was things falling apart and she was telling her friend who then saw an opportunity.
Right.
And then she went to him and was like, oh, Shania feels this way about you, and kind of caused even further of a rift. Or was she the source all along?
Right. Was the breakup already happening? Was she sensing a trouble because it was already going on? Yep. As for how this affected her, Shania has commented, quote, I thought for once I was stable. I really believed that I was safe. So that really devastated me. I think more than any other instability I've ever felt.
I can see that.
Yeah. And I'm sure it didn't help matters that, as we've already said, the disintegration of their marriage happened over such a long span of time. There's the span of time it took to realize it's actually happening and to come to terms with that. But Shania and Mutt separated in 2008 and the divorce wasn't finalized until 2010. So even that part of it
was long.
took a while, right? And of course, again, she's dealing with her career being put on hold because of vocal issues through all this, which
I
is
wonder
terrifying.
if some of that is also stress induced, combined with the Lyme disease.
Couldn't have helped,
No.
right? Obviously, she was struggling, and she doesn't have her singing and her performing to distract her. She doesn't have, the musical part has been taken away from her for the most part as well. Now, surprisingly, what did help her was talking with Marianne's ex-husband, Fred.
Oh.
Did you not know this?
I guess I forgot. Did she end up with Fred?
Hang on.
Hold on.
Hang on.
Hold on.
So, what she said was...
Because I totally forgot about Marianne. I've just been like hating on Mutt this whole time, and I gotta add some people to the list.
That's right. I'm giving you more fuel for your fire. So one of the things that Shania kept sharing was obviously, again, so devastating. She feels betrayed. She's angry. She's feeling loss. But she said another emotion that she dealt with was she just blamed herself. She felt so stupid. She used that word. She said she just felt so stupid for not having seen the signs of Mutt and Marianne's relationship. So she said it actually was very, very helpful to her to discover that Marianne's husband, Fred, had also been blindsided, that he hadn't seen it either. And, it made her feel better about herself because she was just hating on herself for that. But then she also gained so much respect for the way he handled all of it. She said he seemed to process and work through the pain of what had happened to them so much more graciously than she was doing. And that just kind of moved her. It spoke to her. What ends up happening is the two had not known each other well before all this. Yeah, their families would sometimes do things together, but actually Mutt and Fred would talk to each other more. The women were very close. And so she said she didn't even have his phone number in her phone. But through the course of this, things changed. Here's a quote from a People magazine article. I did not get close to Fred at all. We didn't have each other's numbers. He was not really part of our daily lives because he was working these crazy hours. A lot of travel for his very high-profile company, just suit and tie. And so he would be around like weekend dinners and stuff like that. We would all eat together, and that was it. So that's the prior situation.
Okay.
But through supporting each other through this incredibly painful experience, they grew so close that they started developing feelings for each other, and the two were married on New Year's Day of 2011.
Well,
I know.
that turned out well.
Yeah.
Is she still with him?
Oh, happily.
Oh,
with
good for you,
him.
Shania.
And he's a nice looking fella.
Good for you, Shania.
She's done very well. Very well. In fact, she said that things worked out the way that they should because she's extremely happy.
Well, good.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, people will ask her, if Mutt and Marianne are still together. And in an interview a few years ago, she did say that she knows they're still together. She doesn't speak to either of them.
Yeah.
But she does text with Mutt in order to co-parent. Now, now their child is grown now, but over the years, and I'm sure even now, still, if they have to negotiate something, holidays or whatever, they still probably do it. But here's what she said. Mutt and I parent well together. For people who don't talk to each other, we'll just text. We both love our son so much, so we don't play any games like that. We have the same priority. We share spaces for him. No nonsense there.
Good.
Now, going back to the year they were married, 2011, that same year, Shania underwent open throat surgery, is how they refer to it.
Oh, gosh.
And most sources say she actually ended up having 2 surgeries that year, although in this interview that Shania gave on the Jennifer Hudson show, it kind of sounds like she's talking about one surgery. Just as a little spoiler alert, she actually has another one in 2018. So not sure exactly which one she's talking about, but here's a word from her about this.
Okay.
And how happy are you to still be singing? Because you stopped singing for 7 years.
Yes, I had a bout with Lyme's disease that damaged the nerves to my vocal cords, and that kept me from being able to project my voice.
Project your voice.
Yeah, I couldn't project, and as a singer, obviously that's impossible, you know. I mean, I found a way to work around it to a certain degree, but nothing would stick, and it was really, really, really exhausting, so I ended up getting an operation that, you know, gets me back out on the stage and back in the studio.
So again, I believe she had two
Her
surgeries
voice
in
sounds
2011.
a little more raspy there to me anyway.
She has openly said that her voice is not the same as it was. It's more gravelly. She said, I think it's sexy.
Yeah.
And she said it's not the same voice, but she still loves her voice, and she's so grateful that she can still sing.
Yes.
But back when she had the first 2 surgeries, she of course had to do some very serious vocal rehabilitation, but she was actually able to do a stint in Vegas that started the following year.
Ooh.
The show was called Still the One on the Strip, and it kicked off in December of 2012 at Caesar's Palace. According to a People magazine article, it was the first time she'd been back on stage in 8 years.
Wow.
Which is why I think that clip we just heard,
Yeah.
I think she's got to be referring to this surgery because
Yeah.
of that long gap in her
Yeah.
performing. But again, very successful. The show ran for more than 100 performances before ending in December of 2014. Then she toured in 2015 and released her first new album in 15 years, which was called Now, in 2017. That was also the first one that she did without Mutt there to support her as a songwriting partner and a producer. And then, as I've already alluded, in 2018, she had to undergo open throat surgery again to strengthen the weakened nerves. Again, she had to do intensive work to try to get her voice back. And as we've already said, she has openly said her voice is not the same, but she is thrilled that she can still perform. And then this is, I think, just the best. In the last several years, she has had a bit of a resurgence in popularity. Some people call it the Shaniassance.
Shaniassance.
Shaniassance. So part of this resurgence is based on her own hard work and talent, of course. But another factor has been attention that has been directed towards Shania by some of today's big superstars.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you heard about this?
No.
Okay, well, I'm just going to hit some of the highlights of both of those categories, right? From 2019 to 2022, although there was a break for COVID in there, Shania did her second residency in Las Vegas, this show being entitled Let's Go. In 2021, Taylor Swift did a very public shout out to Shania, hailing her as being one of her biggest influences.
I was going to say that. Thinking about Shania's early country / rock pop, that opened the door for Taylor.
100%. You almost nailed it because she literally called it out for, thanking her for paving the way with her country to pop crossover music. And then in 2022, Harry Styles asked Shania to duet with him at Coachella, insisting, because I heard her in an interview, she said she wanted to sing his music, and he insisted, nope, they were going to sing 2 of her songs.
Oh.
He has been a long fan of Shania's. He said back in 2017 that, I think both in music and fashion, my main influence was probably Shania Twain. I think she's amazing.
That's great.
In 2023, Shania put out a new album called Queen of Me and then went on a very successful tour. And then from 2024 to 2025, Shania did her third Las Vegas residency with a show called Come On Over, All the Hits. Also in 2024, Shania appeared on Sabrina Carpenter's Christmas special, where the two sang Santa Baby together. Oh. And then the pair performed a surprise duet of That Don't Impress Me Much in October of 2025 at the Austin City Limits Music Festival in Texas.
Yeah, that is a big boost.
And to bring this to a close, just recently it was announced that Shania will be a special guest performing with Harry Styles again during the London stops on his Together Together world tour this summer. So, at 60 years old, here she is.
Doing great.
Happily married, successfully performing, watching her son start to make his way in the music business because he is pursuing producing and songwriting.
Oh, I bet he's good at it, considering his parents.
Absolutely. And she's ready to
Thriving.
just continue for who knows how long.
That's fantastic.
Fantastic.
Armchair psychologist.
Which brings us to our armchair.
Okay.
Okay, now this is just for fun because obviously you can weigh in with anything else you like as you wish, but for fun, I couldn't pass this up. I'm going to read you 6 song titles from Shania, and you're going to choose one that you think represents Shania or some part of this story that speaks to you.
Okay.
Okay? All right, here are the titles. You're Still the One, Any Man of Mine, Up, From This Moment On, Man, I Feel Like a Woman, I'm Gonna Get You Good. And actually, I think that was 6.
I'm going to go with Up
Okay.
because that's just what she's always done. She's just risen from the ashes over and over and over again. Resilience, survivor. Those are the words I think of
Yes.
with her. So I think Up.
I love it.
What do you think?
I would absolutely concur with everything you've said. I'm gonna also go with Man, I Feel Like a Woman. Because I really love how Shania has shown herself to be such an example.
Yeah.
Such a role model for women who have to overcome really hard things in their personal life and deal with things that they should never have to, and taking on
Yeah.
responsibilities that, having to raise her siblings.
Yeah.
So she's a role model in her personal life, but then in terms of her music, I mean, talk about taking control and paving the way and being such an inspiration and deciding, I've had throat surgeries and I'm now turning 60. I'm just getting started.
Just getting started.
I'm just getting started.
That needs to be your next album title.
Watch me go.
Yes.
Well, I think that brings us to the end.
What an incredible lady.
Absolutely. So a big cheers to Shania Twain.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Cheers. If you love what we do, please rate and review our show or become a supporter through Buy Me a Coffee or Patreon. Whether a single gift or recurring monthly donation, your support is what allows us to keep the tea brewing.
Subscribe on your favorite podcast app or the Scandal Water Podcast YouTube channel, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Show notes are available at our website, scandalwaterpodcast.com, where you can also access the merch store and more.
This episode was executive produced by Candy Thomas, that's me, and Ashley Raymer Brown.
That's me.
It was researched and written by Candy Thomas and edited by Ashley Raymer Brown.
A special thank you to Josh Martin, who wrote, composed, and performed the Scandal Water theme and other music, Matt C. Adams, who created the artwork, and Joshua Reith, who designed our website and provides ongoing technical support.
As a reminder, this podcast is purely for entertainment purposes. The thoughts and opinions of the host during each episode of Scandal Water are their own and do not reflect the opinions of any future guests, advertisers, or clearly professional psychologists. Thanks for listening.